Welcome back to the Drone Camps channel. DC Army Strong as always, guys. Today we have a first look of the new HGLRC Sector X5. There's also a D5 version, which is a dead cat version. This is the Squash X version. Let's go ahead and check out a punch out, and then we'll talk about this quad a little closer on the bench.
All right, guys, X5 maiden flight. Always start out with flying at line of sight. So we're gonna go ahead and stand back, arming the quad 6S. Coming up nice, however, I'm in acro mode right now. Let's go ahead and do a punch out. 1, 2, 3. Nice. Very nice. All right, she's looking good. She's looking good. I'm not gonna land it in the wet grass.
What did you think about that punch out? That was pretty awesome. And speaking of the punch out, when I've flown quads in the past, I can hear vibrations when I'm flying at line of sight, and I can tell you if a quad has bad props on it, if there's one prop that's a little bit bent. So I can really hear a tune on a quad quite well. I mean, I've flown thousands of quads. This one had a really nice tune on it, and you'll see with the FPV video coming up in the next, we're going to do a part 2 as well. You'll see that it has a super smooth tune. Okay, I can't review just this quad once. I've got to do it twice because this is a really nice release, and they released so many different versions of this. They kept stringing me along and telling me that it's going to be released on the 15th, the 16th, the 17th, the 18th, and finally here we are today on February 23rd, and it's finally out on their website. They have a 4S and a 6S version, which I think is great. Get the 6S version, in my opinion. It has the lower KV motors on it. They also seem to be offering 2 different styles of motor. They have 2207.5 4S and 6S options, and then they have like 2306.5 4S and 6S options. Interesting. But if you want to get the analog one, this one comes with a CATX Ratel 2, which is one of my all-time favorite analog cameras. It almost looks like a freaking DJI camera. It does 4.3 and 16:9, which is super nice. And this quad, as it sits, I have to tell you, bypass all the other sectors and grab this one, grab the X5, because this one will go the extra distance that you're looking for. This one's set up for long range, and this one has an 800 milliwatt analog VTX on the back. So if you're analog guys, they went like the full distance on the analog. Little tiny Zeus 800 milliamp VTX in the very back. So back seat, you also can upgrade that to the Vista back here because this is 20x20 setup. We also have 45 amp ESCs underneath this little side plate curtain right here. This kind of just hides everything a little bit and keeps maybe some of the scraggle sticks out. If you go down into the trees, you know, the small branches will stay out. The big branches obviously still going to punch it pretty hard, but it will also keep some of the dust out when you take off. There's a lot of dust when you take off, depending on where you're flying. If you're taking off on a landing pad, that's probably the best way to keep a lot of dust off your quad. Now, one other thing that, I mean, before I really dive into the specs on this, like, let's look at the layout and the way this quad is set up for flying long range. If you're going to fly a 5-inch long range, you know, that's kind of borderline long range in my opinion, because the flight times are shorter on these quads than something like a 7-inch. I can get 25 minutes out of a 7-inch on a LiPo. And I'm running like a huge LiPo, something like a 4S 5000 or, you know, a 6S 4000 milliamp. So on this one, I think you could even put like a 6S like 3000 on this thing, because the way that this quad's set up, it has a traditional long body design, and I call this part back here the truck bed. We always talk about that on the channel. It has tons of truck bed back here. Even behind having a GoPro mounted here, you can get a pretty tall battery back here. The next thing that they did right was they give you a battery strap that's kind of oversized. This battery strap is larger than your typical race quad battery strap. So they know that you guys are going to put a huge battery on this quad. And so that's nice that they did that. They also have gold hardware on here, which I think is pretty cool. HGLRC always tends to put gold hardware on their quads, and it just makes it look cool. You know what I mean? Makes it look nicer. All the way across the bottom of the quad too, you got replaceable arms. Everything's already taped down. Motor wires are taped down. We have an F7 flight controller on board as well. That's the Zeus F722 mini flight controller. You can see those 4 gold posts right there. We also have a backseat analog 800 milliwatt. I don't know why that's on there. There's not even XM Plus, but this is a little antenna cover post. And the next thing that they got right here is the vertical mounted XT60 back here. This is pretty freaking sweet. I've been talking about this on so many different reviews recently. You guys remember which quad it was? It was the Nazgul 5 Evoke, which has it mounted on an angle. I mean, that's just not kind of useful, because you have to bring your battery and change the CG. If you're not running a GoPro up front, there's no need to like have to scooch your battery all the way to the rear of the quad. I've tested it with the GoPro and without the GoPro on the Evoke, and it really doesn't make a difference, but this is what the community wants right here. It's a vertical mount. It is kind of fancy that they, had it all streamlined and kind of cool looking how it goes back, but functionality wise, it's not very good. So one thing was funny. It doesn't come with a hammer antenna back here. This is a stubby hammer antenna. It's funny because I opened up the box and this was a prototype. There was no FPV antenna in there, so they forgot to give me an FPV antenna, which is fine. So I just threw this one on there, and when you see the flight footage, it's not going to be like the perfect flight footage, because I was testing it on 25 milliwatt, as a lot of times I do, just to see how robust a flight or a VTX in the back can be. And this did okay, but this is really not a good antenna. You want the taller antenna, and if you buy one, Binafly, it'll come with a much longer antenna. It's going to be about this long, probably about 4 to 4.5 inches long. Back here we have my Crossfire Nano, which is great because I can get to it inside here. We have a TPU mount back here which moves a little bit. In a crash, it's going to bend, and it's probably not going to snap off. So super, super durable. This is also mounted on an angle, so when you're flying, this GPS will be straight up in the air, getting the best signal. That's kind of nice safeguard. If you're testing your GPS, by the way, you want to field test your GPS return to home. Just a tip for the new guys. And also outside of the 300-foot radius. Inside, if you flip return to home, say you have it on a switch in beta flight, it's going to drop to the ground inside 300-foot circle radius. That happens with all of beta flight GPS quads out there. So fly it past 150 meters, 300 feet, and then it'll return to home and come back and hover over the home point, which is cool. Now, these motors, I've flown these before. These are the 2306.5 1900 kV motors. And these are the 6S Beast motors. If you want a freestyle quad with return to home on here, this is kind of cool. It's kind of like a freestyle quad primo version. You've got gold or red anodized aluminum top on here. Nice, thick, super thick looking coils. I don't know if I can zoom into this with this camera. It's kind of acting a little bit wonky, but you can see how thick the copper coils are in there inside the stator. So super nice there. We have TPU bumpers that have been streamlined a little bit, and I like these bumpers. They're not like giant hanging off the end, and they did like a 2-color TPU bumper. That's kind of cool. And the thing about this is too, instead of going over top of all 4 bolts right here, they only do the 2 on the end. And a lot of times when if you have a hard, smackdown, or you bottom out after a power loop, sometimes these little TPU bottom plates, they'll punch through, and it looks like this is pretty robust right here. That's pretty durable. You also have a TPU guard up front here as well, and that's kind of cool. So that'll keep it kind of safe on your hard landings, and back here as well, in the very back. But it's interesting that they put the side skirts on there. You also have a carbon fiber piece behind this front anodized aluminum plate. And I feel like the shroud on the front of this really sets this quad apart from a lot of the other quads out there. It has a really nice kind of cool look to it. And it almost looks like an S, doesn't it? Doesn't it look like a sector S? That's pretty rad. I didn't notice that before, but we also have on board 45 amp ESCs. So if you got the 4S version and you wanted to upgrade it later to 6S motors with lower kV, usually lower kV brushless motors are under 2000 kV for 6S. So if you want to upgrade to the 1900s and run the same flight controller and 45 amp ESCs, you can do that. But one of the reasons why it flies so good, guys, is because it is running the F722 Mini on here, which is a freaking sweet flight controller. You can see the ESCs are beastie underneath here compared to the 20x20 stack on top. So it has a larger profile for the ESCs than the flight controller, but it has a 20x20 mount option on it. And I don't know right now if it actually has, it doesn't look like it has 30x30 mount option, but it has an old school micro USB port right there. And you want to be careful with those. But really nice that it has 800 milliwatt on here also. And I think for the price and the size of this one, and kind of just bringing a 5-inch more up to speed with some, I would say medium range. I don't really think they're claiming long range on this one, because long range is, in my opinion, like 10 miles plus. But long range means something different to everybody. So some people consider a mile long range. But yeah, you can get the X version here, the squashed X version, which is called the X5, or you can get the D5. And the D5 is the dead cat. If I was a cinema guy, that's the one I would be ordering. And you can still freestyle the dead cat one all day long. We have a 220 millimeter frame as well. So that's the size of this frame. And it looks like the arms are going to be like 6 mil. They're pretty nice and beastie. You'll be able to get a frame kit for this one as well. So if you need extra arms, you'll be able to get that. And they're recommending something like a 1500 4S or a 1300 6S. But like I said, in the truck bed back here, you could probably get quite a bit more battery than what they advertise. I usually go up a size in battery on my quads than what the manufacturer recommends. But that's just me. Sometimes I fly a bigger battery because I want a little better flight time. But there is, there's a give and take there with that. As far as the DJI version, if you guys are interested in the HD version of this, it's going to come with a Polar Vista, which is freaking sweet. So that's a Starlight camera, which can kind of like see in the dark. Really nice, because when you're flying the Polar Vista, the sun starts to go down. Like I was flying in a forest and I came out and I landed, I took my goggles off. I'm like, holy crap, it's like daylight. So the Polar Vista is a really nice one to have. And I mean, as far as bad stuff to say about this quad, I'm not sure what I can say bad about it yet, because I haven't had any problems with it. The GPS for my prototype came set up. I don't know if it will come set up for yours, but hopefully it does. You need to just check out the settings in Betaflight. And when you turn the quad on, if you're near a window or outside, you'll be able to see that you're getting packets. You should be able to receive packets inside Betaflight. You'll see that in the GPS tab. But I think it's looking pretty cool, and it's a really nice release. I'm going to make some freestyle videos with this quad coming up as well. Don't forget to hop in our giveaways this month. We have some pretty cool stuff going on. We have a DJI Mavic Mini that we're giving away. You can comment on this video. Let me know where you're from, what you're flying, and you'll be entered to win that coming up as well. And I'm also doing a crazy promotion right now with like a Diatone Roma F5 V2. I'm selling that for $1. That's a $300 analog quad, and it's going to be posted in the dronecamps.com drone store by March 15th. So we also have a mystery box coming up as well, and that's going to be completely different than those drone drop boxes that you guys saw in the past. It's going to be different than Bardwell's. It's not going to be like a box of frame kit with props or motors. It's going to be full quads in the mystery box. 3 full quads for around $200. So I'll let you know. There's only going to be one of them as well, and these things are going to drop randomly. So you have to be a subscriber on the channel. As always, subscribe, and I'm going to give you guys more goodies. That I just can't fly everything, so I want to give back to the community, and at the same time I want to give you guys a deal. But I appreciate all you guys watching. hop in my Discord, follow me on Twitter and TikTok, Instagram if you don't like Twitter. We're all over the place on social media, so follow us outside YouTube. That would be totally, totally awesome. But stay strong, guys. DC Army Strong, always on the channel. And check out the link below. Buy from my link if you want to grab a Sector D5 or the X5 here. I suggest Freestyle, grab the X5. More cinema long and medium range, grab the D5. But a pretty decent price, 319 bucks analog. And for the HD, it's going to be under 500 bucks at 459. Take care, guys. Enjoyed the first look with you, and I will see you on the next one.